Let's go to our next category, crushing attacks. What are we talking about here? Nothing more than very heavy objects that need to be swung not only with two hands, but they need to be lifted over the head. The most common variety is the ubiquitous chair. It's lifted up and it's thrown down and crushes you under the weight. It's very, very common, and people don't realize how dangerous it can be because of its weight. We need to look at this specifically because it's so easy to access. In urban settings, chairs are everywhere, and a lot of self-defense systems ignore how common these kinds of heavy objects, other kinds of furniture, things like that can be used. All right, let's look at some defenses. All right, let's look at our last and heaviest category of improvised weapons that happen in real-world weapon attacks. Heavy objects. Statistically, the most common version of this is a chair. And to compound that problem, the people who attack people like this are usually larger, stronger people to begin with. So you have a heavy object, like an indoor chair. They want to pick it up overhead, and they want to crush it down on you. So you have to deal with both, oftentimes a larger person, but the weight of the chair. This is also one of the few times you're going to see a direct downward kind of swing straight down like this. All right, now the principle here, the old school one that has some interesting mechanics in it, is based on the principle that as he winds up, I want to block his elbows like this. The weight of the chair, or whatever the heavy object is so heavy that that's helping to unbalance him backwards. So if I'm able to get in there early, when I drive off the floor like this and block at his elbow, push down, it's very difficult, push down hard. It's very hard for him to do this even without the weight because I'm blocking at the elbow, not at the arms. So the point here is I absolutely positively don't try to do this kind of thing. I'm going to get crushed under it. Now in the old days, our early defense was he would wind up, we would block, the weight of the chair would start forcing him backwards, and then boom, we'd throw a side kick into his middle and that would topple him over the chair. In the old days, every jiu-jitsu guy had at least a good side kick, even though he wasn't expected to be a stand-up fighter. Now, that has its place, it's good mechanics. Remember in our unarmed program, we talked about how much leverage there was by controlling here just behind the elbow. So the principle is the same. He only has his tricep muscles at this point, and you really do have good leverage. It's surprising how well you can control a guy. Now the only problem I have with this is we're training ourselves to go between the arms. As we talked about in real world attacks, you may be startled, you may not realize exactly what he's doing, although in this case, it's a pretty slow process to have to pick up a chair, heft it overhand, and then swing it back down. Although your back may be turned, you turn around, the guy's chair is already up. Well, this kind of thing can work. However, something that is more of a sambo approach is to go into his armpit area. When he winds up like this, I want to enter the same way as we did for the axe attack. I want to step off 45 and bury my head underneath him. Keep the wind up there. Now you can see that the position I'm in, many times I can actually grab the handle of the back of the chair and start unbalancing the guy, pull this down, have him go over top and crash into his own chair. At the same time, my head is never in front of him. I step off from the same 45 degree as we talked about. You could do a sliding block, but because of the size of the implement, many times this is just going to gimp up your arms. You don't know exactly where it is, if it's a table or a piece of furniture. So that's why the sliding block that we covered in the last lesson isn't the preferred method for this. Because again, you're not exactly sure the configuration. There is no haft or shaft to make a nice smooth slide down your arm. So I want to do two things. I want to get into the position of advantage and I want to hide my head. So by the action of winding up, he's exposing this place that I need to be. Worst case scenario, the chair goes crashing down behind me and I can go behind him and begin my attack. If I catch him early enough, I'm able to crash into him as he staggers back, the weight of the chair starts to rock us, and I can rip this down and actually throw him back on top of it, which is exactly the same thing as the old school kick would have done, but I'm able to have more control of it and I'm in a safer position. All right, let's look at a simple drill for this. This kind of defense, the old school one, is based on that reoccurring principle here that if I can control behind his elbow, I'm really forcing him to fight with just his triceps. In fact, you can use this in all kinds of defenses. And I actually saw a live surveillance footage of a policeman stopping an overhand knife attack while he was patting a suspect down. The guy pulled a knife from concealment, held it over his head, and he blocked it this way and jammed it into a wall. So this principle is just doing it doubly with the chair. Although again, this is not my preferred method. Although for the drill, you can combine this. I can pop the guy and go here, and then he can practice popping, and then he can get and bury his head into there. So all we do is go back and forth, and this ties into our push defenses that we did in the unarmed section where I'm trying to get to this point. Now for this kind of drill, I can use my thumb against the chair. I probably want to protect my thumbs. Remember, there's a pushing motion that forces him back, and we can just do that back and forth. Yeah, it's really, once my arm's caught in this position, it really is surprisingly weak. You just have to hold the guy, and then you can see for yourself, suddenly your triceps are holding his entire body weight there, and it really cuts the strength out of it.